interesting conversation, and I plan to resume it as soon as I finish getting married.
Getting
married.
Getting married.
Yeah, 1 week today.
Oh, congratulations.
Indeed. That's
Okay,
great.
do I have audio? Do I have audio, Rudy?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right, great.
Hey, it's been a long time, man. Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing super. Thank you for asking. I've been keeping up with you. You've been shooting a lot of video here recently.
Yeah, I've been a busy Mexican lately.
You're a star. You're an internet star, man.
Yeah.
You're going to get an Emmy from Al Gore, I bet.
Hey, Tommy, I was wondering, I've been thumbing through Apocalypse now pretty meticulously, and I saw a Tommy Ellison submit a trick. Is that you? Were you in Apocalypse, or is it a different Thomas Ellison?
Back in the very first volume, I think, volume 1, maybe December, it was called Jack in the Box.
Yeah. That's yours?
Yeah, that's me.
Do you still do
I'm old, Rudy. In fact, it was so old that was the original Apocalypse that was actually printed on papyrus, rolled up, like a scroll. So anyway,
is that something that
I'm here all week, folks? I'm here all week. Okay.
Can you perform that later on for us? Is it something you still remember after 45 years later?
There is no way, but I emailed you the manuscript for it because a friend of mine, David Gerard, put it in his book just recently, and he put a few other touches. And I sent you the notes on it the other day. You may not have seen it yet, but you may want to take a look at it and add your own flair to it because you're good at that.
Wow, well, that's great. I can't wait to see that. Well, I'm glad to see you guys. It was a trip to meet. From video, it's hard to tell people whether or not they're tall or short, and watching when you see the picture, he's a lot taller than me, but it's cool to see what we're doing here translate to this. And I'll tell you, I don't want to take too much time talking about all the wonderful things we saw at the castle that you didn't, but it was funny because we saw on one of the reader boards that Norman Gilbreth was going to be performing. And I thought, that can't be the same Norman Gilbreth, right? Isn't he dead? No. He was freaking there. And this young lady that Gareth knows, and you can talk about who she is in a minute, but he took us down into the library of the Magic Castle. We sat there with freaking Norman Gilbreth, and he's just talking about.
Just telling us the story, how he came up with it, and what he did, and
it was ridiculous.
It was surreal.
Yeah, it was bizarre. So who's the lady?
I have to ask you, Rudy, would you describe him as a man of principle?
He was a gentleman. He was.
That's really great. But this young lady, her name is Lauren,
Lauren Cohen, and she's a magician member at the castle. Just an incredible magician in her own right. She's not a full-time magician, but I've just been following her on Instagram for the last 2 or 3 years, and you strike up a conversation on there. And she showed us around. She took us the tour and took us down to the library, and there was Norman Gilbreth sitting there getting ready for his 9 o'clock show. So we followed him up to the room where he was performing, and I just checked on Magipedia. He's this 83-year-old chap. Just had this entire room enthralled.
Yeah, and he plays the card because he's older than Sid, of being, at one point, we thought he screwed up the trick. He's like, oh, wait, I forgot a set, which no, he didn't. He was part of getting into his setup for the... It's
one of the few benefits of being in your 80s. I think you can do the magician in trouble really well. It's easy. Because most of the room was magicians, because they'd all made a beeline because they'd heard that Norman Gilbreth was going to be presenting.
Yeah.
And the entire room thought he'd messed up, and he absolutely hadn't. He just had us all on a string.
Right. It was great. So anyhow, thank you, fellas, for being here. Look at this. Is a great group. Mike Brager, good to see you, my friend. I'm glad you're here. Mike,
can you hear me okay, Rudy?
We were just talking about you. Look, bro. I brought him.
Yeah, I saw that book. I'm going to get that.
It's good.
And Johnny, it's good to see
you. I might have to leave a pair of shoes or something to get it into my bag.
Hey, Rudy,
Yes.
Rudy, I'm going to make a prediction right now, a magic prediction, okay?
What's that?
Here we go. Rudy, you've got your own video podcast. You're in Real Magic Magazine.
Crazy.
You've got a huge following, your own forum. I predict you're going to be a headliner on major conventions in a year or two.
Wow.
So there you go. There it is.
Would be
Johnny, I was his bodyguard last night. I was keep Pop Hayden. I said, Pop, will you leave him alone? Please,
yeah, right.
just give him some space.
There you go.
It was funny because there's a young man who was there at the castle last night, and he says, "Are you Rudy Tanico?" And I said, "Yeah." And he knew he had ordered the Harry's lecture. So while he didn't get my name right, the fact that somebody saw me, I go, "What the hell? This is kind of neat." So anyway, it's been a really fun time for me.
How do you pronounce your name, Rudy?
Rudy Tinoco. Rudy Tinoco. Or,
Now I know.
Yeah, so there you go. That's the official. I don't know if you would be willing, Mike, but last night when we were sitting with Howard, he showed us a 21 card trick that was, when he did it, immediately thought of your invisible 21 card trick because it's the same principle. Howard was like, I don't know, he doesn't understand how it works, but he performed it for us, and immediately it's like yours. So can you talk about are you building on the work of some other folks? Because he said he was Charlie Miller.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's Charlie Miller. I saw and talked to him at length at Fechter's this year, and that has nothing to do with Charlie Miller that I know about. I mean, I think he saw me lecture and we talked about things, but he didn't say, "Oh, that's Charlie Miller's thing" to me.
Yeah, well, his is different, and yours uses the court cards. His is a shuffle deck. He peeks the bottom two and uses those as the count.
Yeah, but it's the same. If it's the same math, then it's the same trick, right?
It's based on 11. Well, yours is based on 7, isn't it?
Yeah. So what? There's a different one. He's doing it with 11 instead of 7.
It's the same count back, and then you get to the next key card, and then you count whatever that number was. It's the same, but it's based around 11 rather than 7.
Yeah. If he mentioned Charlie Miller, he didn't have any reference to it, like, "Oh, go look here and you'll see Charlie's thing." So I don't know what to think. The thing that I came up with that's in Tesseract, and it was in my column in the Linking Ring also, came from a session with Dave Solomon, where Dave, I showed him a trick that uses that PM principle math with a stack of 21 cards like this. So you cut, look at the card, and put it back in, and it's the same kind of math. You still count backwards from 7 because of the location of the key cards. But Dave said, "Hey, can you do that with 3 piles of cards?" Well, it turned out that I had a trick in the column that's also in Tesseract, where you have three piles of cards like this. And where am I at? Okay, you guys can see these okay. And basically the premise is exactly the same. The spectator shuffles these cards, drops some of these on top, puts these inside of here, shuffles these and puts them on top. And then you can locate the selection using the same kind of counting from the key cards. And I'd already done that, and I thought, wow, in the case of the 3 large piles like this, about a third of the deck, you have to know how many cards are in this pile. And the premise of the trick was that you have a stooge that counts these under the guise of, making sure that the cards are well mixed. And then your stooge knows how many cards are in this pile. And at the end, the spectator deals cards and the stooge says, "Stop," when he reaches the number of cards in this pile, which is really amazing, because how could this guy know where that guy's card is in the deck after this process? Here, you look at the top card, put some of these on top, buried in the middle of this pile, throw these on top. Now you have to do a little displacement thing, and then the stooge can just tell the guy when to stop, which seems pretty like, what? How could that guy tell me when to stop? Anyway,
you killed us with that a few years ago, Mike.
Yeah, that was way back in the Linking Ring.
Well,
and
4F, it was just astonished everybody.
Oh, at 4F.
What was that?
He said
At 4F, you just killed everybody with that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that's right. Yeah, that's right. Because it was especially because there's no hint that the guy is a stooge, and the stooge doesn't even know how the trick works. All he knows is I told him when I ask you to make sure the cards are well mixed, to just count the cards, and then when he reaches that number, tell him to stop. So the stooge doesn't even understand how that's going to work. So it's kind of cool because they can say, "Are you in on this?" And he goes, "Well, not exactly. I don't even know how it works," and it'd be true. But anyway, so Dave said, "Can you do it with 3 piles of cards?" And I realized if I have 3 piles of 7, then I know how many cards are in this pile, 7. So there's no counting. They have 3 piles of 7, and the trick just works exactly the same way that this one that I'd already published works. And that was that. So Dave's suggestion. Oh, actually, I had a key card on top of each pile of 7. So I had one here and one here. And imitating the one from the linking ring, I said, shuffle the middle pile and do this. And Dave said, well, could you put a key card on top of this pile as well? So there's 3 key cards. And I went, yeah, you could. So that was Dave's contribution, was thinking, hey, then you can pick any pile. So you can say, pick up any pile and shuffle it. I think we've done this on one of these get-togethers before, haven't we, Rudy?
Yes. Yeah, I don't remember which one. It's been a while.
But yeah, I think that trick was been around for a while. It's been in my column, and yeah, I don't know any Charlie Miller connection. I sure have never seen anything like that trick before. And I think if you asked, did you ask Howard where it is?
No, he didn't. He didn't say. I mean, he didn't exactly. He kind of swore us to secrecy a little bit. He said, if you share this, you won't be welcome to the table again.
Was that one?
It was.
Well, I should ask Howard about it again, because we talked about it. He saw me do it in the lecture. I don't remember if he said that he knew something about a Charlie Miller trick or whatever, but
yeah,
Bill Goodwin's seen me do this, and he never said, "Oh, that's already around from Charlie Miller," and he's very, very knowledgeable. So I'll stand corrected if somebody can just point me to Charlie Miller and say, "Here it is."
The bottom line was that in the pile, the face down pile of 21, the 2 key cards, one was the bottom and one was the 11th from the top, and then it's
right.
the exact same count backwards until you get to the first
one.
one.
That sound, yeah, but here's the problem with that one. My original one that was in the linking ring actually was that's the one that I showed to Dave, and you had, I won't set it up now, but you had a key card on top and one at like 11 or something like that. I mean, it's, you adjust the math depending on where that second key card is. You can also do it with a key card on the bottom, but the restriction is, and the danger point is, if somebody cuts past that center card, like if you say cut about half the cards or cut a third of the cards, well, if they cut a third of the cards, you're okay, because they're not going to cut past 11. But if they just happen to catch 11 or 12 and they think that's about a third and you can't tell, the trick's not going to work.
Which he did.
Whereas,
the first time he did it, I cut too few. I only cut 3 or 4 off, and it didn't.
Right, and so did it fail to work then?
It didn't work.
No, it's got to be.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. It's a bad method. So I mean, I came up with that method because it's exactly like the PM principle, which I think we've discussed, where you have to cut less than half, then you have to cut past the middle card and do this, and then by dealing, you can find the 2 selections that were taken. In this case, there's 1 selection, and there's a danger zone on that. In fact, Darwin Ortiz did a trick that well, I won't get into a really long thing here, but he had shown this trick at John Lucas convention, and I said, hey, Darwin, I have this in print that's pretty much exactly what you're doing there. And then he read it and he emailed me back and said, yeah, you're right. You were like a year ahead, so bingo, it's your trick. But he'd already published his version. The problem with his version is that his key card's like at 18, and he just cut it too close. He was doing a Murphy's lecture. The first trick in the lecture is this trick, has a Pharaoh shuffle and uses this kind of math, and he missed. The guy cut and cut at the selection, at his key card, and the trick went down in flames right off the bat because it's just too fine a margin. And the same thing with Howard. He failed on that trick because you didn't cut a proper number, and then you ended up, having the math fail. But if you do 3 piles of 7 with a key card on top of each pile, it can't fail under any circumstances. So,
and if for those who don't have your book, one of the things that Howard said, he goes, "You want to see the best freaking 21 card trick ever?" And he's seen a lot of stuff, and it was this. And yet there's that little flaw where it can fail. Your version is just incredible. So if anybody who doesn't have the book, you really listen out, because that's a fantastic trick.
We got to turn the volume up here, Rudy. Hold on.
So I mean, that says a lot. So if that version that's kind of somewhat flawed is excellent, what does that say about what it is that Mike has Tesseract? So anyway,
Well, I certainly want to be sensitive to any prior stuff. Like if Charlie Miller had that, then that's a lot like the PM principle, and I'd have to look and say what's going on with that. But maybe I should just email Howard and say, hey, what's with this, Charlie Miller deal? And if he goes, well, it's not in print, it's just something I sort of remember from the past. Then if it's not in print, then, that's the old Marlowe rule. If Charlie just showed somebody something and, I would still feel like, well, Charlie had this great idea, and I reinvented it later, but I didn't get inspired by Charlie, that's for sure.
Right. Excellent.
But
thanks.
anyway.
I appreciate the history on that.
Sure.
Steve Christian, I see you. Are you on the train? You're on your way over here, I guess? Yeah. Okay. Steve would be the three of us here doing the session, but he's on his way. Traffic here in LA, man, is just crazy. So,
hey, everybody.
Yeah, there you go. Good to see you, Steve. We'll see you soon, okay?
Yes.
Johnny, you doing good, bro? You want to show us anything? What do you got geared up for us? You got
Well, I always have stuff.
No, I love it.
Hello, Gareth. I hope you're enjoying the United States.
I am.
And good to see everybody. I have something I'll do. I kind of did it last time. And, I'm kind of like Rudy. I'm kind of like you a little bit in the sense that you always try to improve it. You try to get more mileage out of something. And maybe I'm pushing too hard here. So what I do is using this like an opener, guys. So I explained to everybody that I have a deck with all the backs are the same and all the faces are different. And then I take and, I'm talking about how I watch how people kind of shuffle. I'm always fascinated by the way different people shuffle. And I say most people shuffle like this. It's an overhand shuffle. But if you watch little kids, they kind of shuffle like this, right? And they do something just like this. They just throw cards around and just go for it, And of course, if you watch professionals, all right? And with professionals, we're talking, dealers like where Rudy is out there and West Coast kind of a thing. The professionals, they do a thing called a riffle shuffle, which looks like this. Now, guys, I want you to see. That is a real riffle shuffle. And then dealers always do this thing. It's called a strip out shuffle. And they just take cards off the top, drop them on top. And then they'll take and probably top it off with maybe one more riffle shuffle, something like this maybe. And again, that's a real shuffle. Okay, cool. Well, I just snap my fingers and the bottom card becomes a very important card, an ace. Watch. Sorry, screwed up. It's the top card. Screwed up again. Well, if I snap both my fingers, though, then I just take and do a couple of cuts. And bam, I wind up with 4 bolts.
Good job.
Nice, Jim.
Really
good. Do you want me to explain that, or?
Yes, please.
This is my cement mixer shuffle, but I've improved it a little bit using a breather. Okay, and I found that by using a breather combined with the cement mixer thing that I've come up with, I think it's really acceptable. I don't know. So what I do is I start out this way. I have a blank card and a breather, and I always use the 9 of clubs because it hides the really well. And then I have 4 aces, okay? And so I start out like this and explain that all the backs are the same. Now I can do this kind of a deal and show the faces, and it will hide the ace at the back there. I do kind of a Rudy move here. You know, I try to do the jog shuffle, but I noticed what you do, and I learned from you watching this. You always pause a little bit and talk and whatever, you know. And so I tried to do that too. And you know, I finish up my jog shuffle. Okay, so now I do my cement mixer, but now, you guys that were at the last session, I don't have to hold the cards anymore. So I simply show that the cards are mixed, drop everything, and here's my stack right here. Drop it, and I can place everything. I don't have to hold a break anymore. I can just literally put the cards in 2 piles like this.
Excellent.
And I'm good. I don't have to hold anything. So I think it makes it even more convincing. Now I just add this on top and square it up.
Wow.
So now what happens is I cut at the breather, which will be approximately in the center. So I cut right at the breather and let my thumb drop one more card. I'm like dropping just one more card, or 2 or 3, it doesn't really matter. And I do a real riffle shuffle, okay? Except I'm going to end with, you know, a block here, which is my stack. And it could be a few cards on top. It doesn't have to be just one card, right? I close it up and, you know, point out, especially with magician guys, you know, that I got a real shuffle. Now I take about a third from the bottom, maybe a little less than half from the bottom, and I do this very slowly, and I can really show them that I'm dropping cards. This, I think, really fools magicians.
Yeah, you lost me on that one.
Bam, you know. Now, all I have to do is cut at the breather and make one more shuffle, and what I do is end with a group here and one on top. Close it up, and again, it's a real shuffle, right? And now I show the bottom card, and then I show the top card, and this time around it won't work, but now I do a cut. What I do is a slip cut, but it's a false cut, but I add a slip cut to it. So what I do is I've got my finger on top, I cut the bottom, cut one more, put my finger on it, bring this over, and finish up. That's a totally blind cut. And, you know, everybody does the OC cut, but the problem is magicians know that. So by doing this, it's as easy as an OC cut, but you haven't seen it before. But what I do is, as I do that, I slip cut to get rid of the top card. And now, it won't be right now, but it would have been, it would be the 4 aces.
Could you go over that cut a little slower, please?
Yeah. It's my answer to what I like to do is avoid the moves that guys know. So I try to come up with my own stuff. So here's what I do. I cut fingers on top as a Vernon idea. Right? And I cut the bottom half and let my finger slide to this exact point. So it gives you that illusion that that's the top. And now I cut the top half of this packet with my finger on top. And I found this really helps. Leave your finger on it. You're selling the idea that this is the top. This is the top. And now I bring it over. Boom, boom. So if I do that up to speed, you really get the feeling that you're cutting. And it's so easy. It's just, you know, it's just as easy as doing this. But I have to say that every time I see, and I see great guys do this, it's a great move. It is one of the most convincing false. But I immediately know what it is.
Right.
And I think, Rudy, I think you mentioned you hate doing that Browy add-on addition, you know. And I have a Tony Cabral video that does the same thing, you know. There are certain moves we do, but boy, if we had a different way of doing it. But anyway, could I show you real quickly just a different way to do the cement mixer business that I just did? And may I do that? It only takes a second.
Johnny, please. That's what we're here for. I love this. That's
Okay.
awesome.
So instead of just dropping like this and doing that, okay, and now I got the breather working for me here, right? Instead of doing it that way, I do it this way sometimes, and this works pretty well too because you do it so slowly. So same setup. I have a blank, a breather, 4 aces, or a royal flush, whatever you want. And now I say, stop somewhere in the middle. So some guy says, stop. I say right here. Now I say, I'm going to shuffle face up right in front of you. Okay. Now, as I'm squaring these cards a little bit, I do this Lee Asher move, we call it the losing control idea. So what I do is, as I'm squaring, I just flip this way. So instead of the cards being in my left hand this way, I just flip it this way. Nobody notices, okay? And now I just put a few down, a few more, a few more, a few more, a few more. Boom. So now it looks like I really shuffled the cards again, but I haven't. I've got the breather. It's the same trick. So now I can cut and do the same exact trick. It doesn't matter, you know? And I think this really works pretty well. And one last shuffle. And then my cut with the slip cut, and bam, I got my 4 aces. What an opener. Boom.
Excellent, bro. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I love that. That's great.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Really like that. Wow.
Really nice, Johnny.
I don't know if you can see the little group chat, but Chris W. was really digging that control sequence. Of course, Anthony's giving.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
Could I? Sorry to butt in on this one again, but could I trouble you to just confirm I've got that triple cut right?
Yeah.
This is Andrew.
So you're doing a either a slip or without the slip, just a fake.
Yes, exactly.
Take the bottom half forward, then take the top half of that forward.
Right.
And then the right hand takes the original top forward.
Your left hand.
Or sorry, the left hand. Okay. So right hand takes the bottom half forward, top half of that forward. Left hand goes all the way to the front, then back to the middle.
Yes.
I have that correct?
It's a totally blind cut. The other thing I could say is when you do that, I have found that leaving your finger on that card just a little longer until you do this. So don't take that. So if you do this, see, now the illusion isn't quite the same. If you do this, now you're a 1/10 of a second where you're spelling what you're doing, I think.
I can see
But
that.
you got it. Perfect. And I always slap the card. Lay people like that. They think that means you're really good or you're better.
Yep.
That's great.
There's a wonderful false cut in New Era Card Tricks by Roderberg, which this reminds me of, which is
Can you do this again? Your
That looks great.
Can you do it?
so now it's not a full blind cut though. It cuts the deck, but it's a straight cut. So it's cut 2/3 forward, then 1/3 of that forward. Now you bring the back packet on top of the front one and the middle packet on top of the front one. And the net result is you've done it right. It looks like a triple cut, but you've actually done just a straight cut. So it was designed for a stacked deck. But what I realized was if you cut 1/3 of the packet to the top and keep a break to begin with, then you can make it a full deck false cut.
Mm-hmm.
So take 1/3 to the top, keep a break, cut 2/3 forward, cut to the break, forward, and it's a full deck. But yeah, that's and was that entirely yours, Johnny, or was that based on something?
Yes, it like Mike said, I do this all in all, I'm sure there's nothing invented that's new, you know?
Of course.
It's gotta be somewhere, but I have no idea. I simply created it just to
Yeah.
create a blind cut that was not the OC cut.
I don't think we should assume that things are somewhere necessarily. You know, it's possible. Hey, could I show a real quick one, Rudy?
Yes, please.
Because Johnny, that reminded me of one that looks like this. Let's do the close-up view. So this is a false cut too,
Wow.
which looks pretty good, I think. So it's just like to here, to here. And there's no, you know, the other ones kind of go here, then they reverse and come back. And to me, makes it seem like, wait a minute, are you undoing something? This just looks like you just lay them out and just stack them up.
Yeah.
And that's called the Affus Gaffus false cut from $1 Million Card Secrets or Super Subtle from Frank Garcia. So the action is that you undercut. This is like what Andrew was doing to some extent, only the way it sorts out, you don't have to kind of go out and come back in. So you undercut, and now you can either hold you don't even hold a break. You just put these on top of the bottom third. So you're cutting about a third or about half to here. Now you're reaching all the way down so that you're holding the entire, both packets. I got to think about this for a second. You get to here? Yeah, okay. So you put these to here. Now you reach down and you pull the top half of this lower portion away. Now just drop these off and restack it. It's almost, you can't even see how it works when you're watching it. So the bottom third or so comes up, staggered to my right. Now you grab the entire deck and pull the top half of this lower portion away.
Oh,
And now drop off that middle portion and come forward and then just stack them up. But at speed, it just looks like you're just doing this. And it really looks pretty good.
I'm pretty sure, Mike, it's also in either volume 1 or volume 2 of Card College. I'm pretty sure that's where
Of Card College?
in 1 or 2, because they're the only 2 I've got. But I'm pretty sure.
Okay, well, Frank Garcia would have been like way before that. I don't think he even takes credit for it. I can't remember who he gives credit to for that. I can look it up. I've got the book right over here. Maybe I'll look it up when there's a little space in here. But that's all I've got. I just wanted to show it because Johnny's kind of reminded me of that. And then Andrew's also, I see the similarity in both of them. So there's a third one.
That's great.
Can I do a number 4?
Yes.
Oh.
Who's that? Robin?
This is Tommy.
Oh, where are you? Oh, Tommy, where are you? I'm looking for your.
There
you go. Yes, Tommy. I'm going to put the camera on you. There you go.
Okay. This is a full cut, and this was shown to me by Steve Friedberg, who's a member of this group, but I don't know the source beyond that. But you're basically doing a full cut where you're doing this, and you're back in position.
Yeah.
And I don't know the source of this, so it's pretty subtle.
Yeah, it's good.
Good.
I think it's an expert card technique.
Is it? Okay.
I can't put a name on it.
Yeah, fancy blind cut number 1.
The cut that could not be explained or something like that.
Yeah, you know what is kind of funny? Everybody knows. Chris W. said, "Yeah, that's Erdnase too." I've seen it, but I didn't know where it was from. Can you do it really? Can you show us really quick for those of us who aren't as well versed? I guess because I didn't know that was an expert card technique. So what are you doing there?
Well, you talking about tutorial? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. You're cutting off the bottom half, and then when you set it back on top, see if I can do this slow. You offset it, and your thumbs are actually going to grab the bottom half of the bottom stack and split it off, and you kind of let gravity take the top packet off so that the bottom pack, or what was the middle, is now going to the middle and the top is going to the top. So let me see if I can do that again.
I like that.
Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Maybe I got a better angle here. Wait a minute. Let's do it this way. Let's see if I can. I had another.
While you get that set up, let me just say hello to Gary Davis. It's like 2 a.m. for Gary.
Australia.
Gary's calling from Australia. I think it must be like 2 a.m. What time is it?
He's like Australia's greatest close-up magician.
Good to see you, Gary. And then also we have Frank Zach joined us. Hi, Frank. It's good to see you, my friend.
Hey, Rudy.
That's a great angle right there on that.
Is that a better angle?
Yeah, perfect.
All right, so you're going here, and then you offset and grab the bottom of the bottom stack and split it away, and these fingers are going to maintain the top of that, and then you let gravity, and this is what happens. You have to kind of do it fast because it'll split on you if you're not careful. But when you do it full speed, it looks like this, and it's just kind of a random haphazard cutting that the full deck back.
I like that. Excellent.
Can I jump in?
Yes. Who's
Andrew?
All right, Andrew, you're on.
Yeah, this is kind of an amusing tidbit historically. So yeah, fancy blind cut number 1, which is what he was just showing us from Erdnase. Erdnase has you grabbing the original top with the 3rd finger, and then sort of pull these out quickly and drop these. It became popular for a time. People would keep a break with their thumbs at the back end to avoid the big gap. But there's a variation of this that is in Revelations, the old Revelations, that is not in the new Revelation, the big book.
Wow.
And I think, and there are a few things that I noticed did not get in Revelation, and I suspect they were just some editing errors. But what he had was the initial packet was jogged, so the right hand takes the bottom 3rd out and jogs it to the left. And now the right hand picks up the 2nd 3rd with the thumb, which is difficult for me to show. But because of the jog, you can slide the 2 out relatively slowly and gracefully. I mean, I was exaggerating it there, but the result is because of the jog, you don't have to do that sort of quick jump, which helps to make it a smoother action. So the right hand takes the bottom 3rd out, jogs it to the left. Neither hand is grabbing that original bottom 3rd now, because the right hand grabs the 2nd 3rd and the left hand grabs the bottom 3rd, and then they just kind of pull out and it goes down. Also, the Aphis Gaphis cut in Tarbell 3, page 199. There's a cut called the Easy 3-Way False Cut. And I actually need to go check my Garcia books because I don't remember which one was published first. But the Tarbell one is 73, and I remember the Garcia books are in the 70s. And the fascinating thing, and I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was live. Yeah, the book that Frank's got it in is copyright 72.
Oh, so Frank did beat Tarbell by 1 year. But yeah, Tarbell has essentially the same mechanics, although he's got the fingering positions different. He pulls out the bottom 3rd and then grabs the middle 3rd with the thumb and 3rd finger for the slide forward.
Okay.
So, anyways,
it's Anthony. I had put it over in the text, but in Card College, Joby credits Erdnase with the Aphis Gaphis. Just for what it's worth.
That was
good to know.
In Joby in Card College, because that's certainly where I've learned it. Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Frank wasn't noted.
Bizarre. Yeah, I'm pretty darn sure that ain't in Erdnase.
Well, that's what Joby says in Card College. I don't know. He says it's a variation of something that was described in Erdnase.
Well, we know Frank Garcia is not very good at crediting, so we can just leave that on the table.
That we do know.
That's great. Wow. Well, thanks, man. That was awesome.
When you mentioned Revelations, which book? Who's the author of that?
The Apostle John.
Di Vernon. It's and I was referring to there are two versions of essentially the same book. Give me just a moment. I'll go grab them.
You're saying that Vernon was the author, though?
Might have been Ganson. Was it?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Mike's looking at his extensive library there. He'll probably have it here shortly.
Secret Stars, Book of Magic. I got all the Chronicles. I don't see Revelations here, though.
Mike.
I don't know.
I was.
All right. As we're waiting for you to do that, I'm hoping that maybe Frank can show us something.
Okay.
The video.
Was that Rudy?
Yes.
So
Who is that? Who was that talking right now?
That was me. What'd you say?
Oh, I was just saying it. Once Andrew's done showing us this, maybe you can. If you're willing to.
I'll show you a little move I've been playing with.
Mike Breger. So back to you, Andrew.
Okay, so this is the original book, Revelations, with an S at the end. Author Di Vernon, and what they did was they have Erdnase in the middle part, the original text, and Vernon's commentary out on the sides. So this is from the early '80s. It is a spectacular book. It's got an introduction by Percy Diaconis, and it's got a whole section in the end with some newer additions. And then what happened was, I think David Ben, anyways, Kavney and someone did a bunch of work redoing it, made a book called Revelation that was just a couple of years ago. Now, they found a typed up version of the original manuscript, Vernon's original manuscript, and they included a photograph of it, which is just Vernon's commentaries. They reformatted the text. They found original photos of Vernon's hands, which is the best part, because I guess there'd been a sequence of photos made that was then lost. But somewhere along the way, what happened was, according to what's in the book, Diaconis got the original manuscript, edited it, gave an edited version back to Kavney back in the '80s, and Diaconis had added a bunch of stuff to it. And so then what they did is, in the new Revelation book, all of the things that were Diaconis's additions, they stuck in brackets, so you could know when you were reading Vernon versus Diaconis. And so I suspect what happened was there are several places where there are things in the original that aren't in the new one. And I suspect what happened was, in the editing, they just missed them, and that variation on the cut was one of them. Also, like off the top of my head, I remember there was some parts missing from the 3-card Monty routine. So, anyways, I forgot what the specific question was, but that's the.
There's a little history there. That's great, man. Those are two I'd like to get my hands on.
Andrew, are you saying that this is Vernon's commentary on Erdnase? Is that what the text basically is?
Yeah, that's the main point of the book. And Vernon doesn't. Back in the early '80s, there was some disappointment because people were going, God, they saw the big amounts of white space and the little amounts of text that Vernon wrote, and there was this sort of feeling of being ripped off among some people. And but the thing is, Vernon wasn't trying to write his own book. What he was saying was, it's more like a study guide, right? When you read it, the point isn't to just read Vernon's commentary. The point is, Vernon's commentary tells you, like, pay attention, in this photo, or in this drawing, Erdnase accurately shows where the forefinger should be, or pay a special attention to the third sentence where he talks about the thumb being immobile, or whatever, things like that, right? So it's not, it really is meant to add to Erdnase. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be its own thing. So if you just read Vernon's comments by themselves, it can feel a little disappointing until you realize what he's really doing is focusing your attention on the real gems.
Right. Yep. Dig it. So Darwin Ortiz did Revelation, or did the annotated Erdnase. I got it. You can see my picture there, but you can see it sounds like a similar structure where you've got Erdnase on the left column and then commentary on the right column. So you've got, this is Darwin's take on that. And at the beginning, the other magical publications that they refer to from, I think this is Caveney, is it? Is Revelations by Di Vernon is the first thing on the list of other stuff, other publications. But it looks like it's an attempt to do the same thing. So sometimes there's nothing here, and sometimes, there's a lot of stuff. So you can, I haven't really gone through this carefully to be able to really, give you my take on it. But it looks like it's similar to what you're talking about, Andrew, with Vernon. And this is just Darwin's doing the same sort of thing, evidently.
The structure is very similar. Darwin has a lot of references. The annotated Erdnase is, in some respects, it's almost like a history of card magic, because it's Darwin traces things from before Erdnase that could have inspired what you're seeing in Erdnase, and he mentions notable variations that were developed later. I mean, the book is just filled with references. It was my shopping list for years. I've joked that Darwin's book is sort of a historical commentary, while Vernon's is more of a theological commentary.
Theological.
A lot of that good stuff comes from a lot of these manuscripts you're talking about, but I've found that a lot of the really inner stuff I found was in kid stuff by Francis Ireland, and I have an autographed copy from 1954. So this is where the real work is found, and Mike could probably attest to that. Correct, Mike?
Yeah. What were you, like 30 years old then? In 54, you were what, 30?
That lump in the cheek is my tongue, by the way. I need y'all to know that. Anyway.
Oh man, because I was about to ask what's in that book. I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, me
Kid stuff by Frances Ireland, or she became Frances Marshall, I guess. But,
that's right.
And I actually got this in a trade. It took me a lot of work to get it because I got it from Mike, and I won't talk about exactly what I had to do. I'm sorry, Mike. We swore that we would never show that picture to anybody. Just trying to bring a lighter moment to the group here. So.
Well, that is good, man.
Me and Gareth had a night like that. We shared this bed that we're sitting on right now.
That will never appear on the Magician's Forum, I can assure you. Somebody.
There's two guys that'll never be on the Supreme Court. Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
That was awesome. All right, guys. That's great, man. Hey, well, I'm going to pass it on to Frank.
He was great. Thank you, Rudy. He was great. Thank you. Yeah.
Let's see here.
Hi, Frank.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, hey guys. You were talking about the one false cut where you're doing the drop like this. I've always done it where I keep it nice and tight as opposed to doing the drop.
Mm-hmm.
Just more my style than to be doing it where we're letting one fall out. And another false cut that I like to do on the table is coming up like this. And that's the another one. And all I'm doing on that is just lifting up with the right index finger, pulling out from the center, coming straight up to the top, and then back, and bringing the back one up.
That's good too.
But what I wanted to show you is something I've been playing around with. If you control the card, a chosen card to the top, in this case, we'll call it the King of Hearts.
Before you leave the cut, I'm curious. Has that been published? That last one you just did?
I've been doing it for over 40 years, so I don't remember who showed it to me or if it was published.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
It was.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff I've been doing since forever, it seems like. So you have a card control to the top, and I do it at the end of a couple of different routines, but show it in different card. Like that. Let me move back here so we can see it. So you're coming here, you're showing in different card, and come down, and now it changes.
Wow, looks good, man.
And what's nice about that is they see the back all the way down, even as it's coming down. So they don't see that you're dumping the card. And what you're doing, you're grabbing the card and I'll go back. A lot of times I'll just do it out of a double lift also. But you're going to grab the upper corner with your thumb and your index finger. And as the card turns down, this is the motion that you're having. So that comes over even though they see the top card.
Mm-hmm.
Stand up a little bit better. As they come down here and they see that top card the whole way.
Excellent, Frank. That looks so good.
And if you're coming off the top, the right thumb is at the lower left index corner and the middle finger is at the upper right corner. You pivot, now the index finger comes to the thumb and it pushes.
Wow, that looks so good. That looks good, Frank. Excellent. What do you
One of those moves that the slower you do it, the better it looks, isn't it?
I don't have a name for it. And just recently I've been playing around with doing it off of the bottom and coming in for a color change.
Mm,
Man, that looks good.
yeah, it really does look good.
Frank, could you do it a bit slower?
Sure.
Well,
Yeah, that looks.
And what you're doing is you're pivoting it around. The index finger's pushing as the right hand's away.
That looks really good. It's not. There's not a lot of movement with that forefinger pushing it, so it's only a slight little.
Yeah, that's just a slight little push.
That looks really excellent. I like that. That's really beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
And then from the top,
What about it? That looks really nice. Really nice. Thank you.
thanks.
How you feeling anyway? You feeling good? Life? You're well? You feeling?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How about you? Did you get to the castle last night or are you going tonight?
No, we went last night and we're going again tonight. So
Unbelievable. Incredible. I was like a 6-year-old on Christmas Day morning.
yeah,
Yes, it is. First time for both of you or have you been there before?
First time for me.
Yeah, I've been there a few times, but it's still,
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I mean, I've been there before, but you're like a kid.
Did Howard come down to see you guys?
Yeah, we hung out with him for a little bit. We stayed with him almost till 1 a.m, I think. So we sat with him, but I mean, you turn around and we turn and there's Boris Wilde. I'm like, what the hell? He was right there. And it's just, it's just people like in my mind, like, you know, like when I first met Mike Powers, I go, I'm talking to Mike effing Powers.
I was walking down a corridor and this tall guy walks next to me. I was like,
Steve Valentine.
Yeah, Steve Valentine.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
So,
Chris Hannibal was sitting.
how many of these people have you hit up for doing lectures for the Magician's Forum?
Right, man. Yeah.
Did you talk to any of them and see if they would?
Well, I guess I think I get intimidated. That's why it's always better when you guys help me out because they're like, who the hell are you?
Got Gareth there. Let him be your wingman.
Right.
I could just be the Australian with no manners. It's Crocodile Dundee.
Right. It's fun. We're looking forward to a great night tonight. So,
Paul Green, I was talking to Paul Green. He said he might be able to get up there tonight. He's not sure yet.
oh, awesome! Maybe I can I'll give him a call and see if he'd be willing to meet up with us. That would be great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad to see that you're in good health.
You got a camera.
Yes, we're going to get on camera. I think that Gareth wants to show us something here. So let me get the camera.
Awesome.
All right. I'm going to move this behind you. All right.
This is a work in progress. This is something just a week ago that I played on the plane, and it was partly inspired by Frank's dice routine on his lecture, and then also Gerald Deutsch.
Yeah.
He had something. So I had these key rings. Somebody told me that to do a linking ring routine, you have to have a key ring. So I got some key rings. And then somebody else, and it just wasn't working. So I asked the guy. He said, "Oh, you've gone too quick. You start small. Well, they don't get much smaller. No. Just take what you need to do is start with 2. Put the third one away, and it'll be much easier." It's not working. No, do it again. Just take that one away and pop it away. And it's no. That's not gonna. No, I know what you need to do. You just have to keep practicing. So look, take these 2, throw them away. Take this one and put it back in your pocket. And if you practice and practice and practice really, really hard, you should get it, and they will be.
There you go. That's
very nice.
That's cool.
Gareth, that's good.
Like it.
Good job.
Hey man, now that's.
And I feel like it's got one more phase in it. So I'm looking to find some gold ones. So the final line will be, you've got to try and get rid of them, and then if you work on it for long enough, you'll have a piece of gold, and then there'll be 3 gold. There'll be gold ones.
That's
a nice catchphrase, yeah.
Yeah.
That is so.
If you're working,
keyring works, and I'm practicing these. I'm practicing my linking ring. I can't. These key rings don't seem to do anything. Well, no, you've got too many to start with. Just get rid of that one, and there's still. And then a shuttle pass with the 3 linked, and you have.
I like it, but only.
Hey, Gareth.
Oh wait, who's saying that?
Gareth.
Yep.
If you're working for magicians, you could bring the 4th phase in where you have an actual key on the rings and say, "Oh, I've been using a key ring," but you wouldn't want to do that with a layout yet, obviously.
Gerald has it so that he switches it so there's 2 linked, and then the 3rd one is on the buckle of his watch. But I don't wear a watch, so I was playing around with having one linked on my wedding ring, but making sure obviously that the hand is held, that ring is covered through the whole.
I think that's a cool idea.
The whole thing, and you throw it. And I think all 3 rings should be linked. Oh no, there's only 2 rings linked. Oh no, there's another. On the, yeah.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah.
Gerald Deutsch finishes with 1 link to his wristband, to his watch buckle.
I think Jay Sankey had a thing, Gareth, that you might play with. If I recall right, I think it was a key onto something, but you could do it with what you're doing, and that's to use the striking vanish. So you basically have the 2 linked in your right hand, and apparently you only have 1 because you're just showing the 1, and then you've got 1 on your left hand. Then as you're going to throw these, apparently you're throwing 1, but you're really throwing the linked pair, and you just flip this one back into your right hand. So you just go like that and close your hand. Now you've got the single one back here via the striking vanish, and when you open your hand, they're linked. So it's pretty cool. I can't remember. I think he uses a key and a key ring or something, but just along the lines of linking stuff, that's kind of a cool idea too.
Right. I think it's.
Yeah, if I can toss in a word on that.
Let's see, who is that talking? Oh, Robin. There you go. Go for it.
Yeah, thanks. No, it's just a word. I don't really need the video, but if I recall Sankey's description of that, rather than throwing the visible object back, because then you've got 2 things kind of moving in opposite directions with a lot of danger that they're going to collide. I think what he does is he actually kind of does this. I'll see if I can bring this down a little. So if this is what's showing and I want to swap it for something else, this basically I'm going to throw this, but both hands are going to move forward, which will leave the little electrical cap sort of hanging in space, and I scoop that up with the throwing hand. So it's
That's
not so
right.
much throwing this back as this one throws forward, as both hands go forward, and the switch is made like that.
I think that's
what
right.
Sankey does.
Yeah. That's right, and that's inertia, right? You're just letting that thing will want to stay where it is. So when you move your hand away, it's going to start to fall, but momentarily it's almost not moving at all. So
Yeah,
just,
so you scoop it up with your hand that's approaching it.
you know, but when I see people say that's what I'm doing, watch them, and this hand does move back.
Fair
You
enough.
almost can't help it. If you really, it's sort of like you just almost have to do a little bit. I mean, you're not like throwing it because then it looks really obvious. But I think there's just sort of a little bit of a action coming back. I don't know. Maybe I'm just making that up. But yeah.
No, I think you're right. I think it is natural to at least
Really
lift it
hard.
up off your hand a bit.
I think it's just what it is like a really slight motion to just give it a little bit of upward velocity so that it doesn't immediately just start falling away, because then you have to really go through where your hand was. Because theoretically, if it's on my hand and I'm not going to use any motion upward with my left hand, then I have to actually move through where my left hand was to catch that thing in the air, and it'll even be past that by the time I get there. So I think there's a slight motion upward, but you don't want to look like you're throwing it or you give the whole thing away. That's for sure.
Yeah, with oh yeah, just with doing it with rings. If you've got the three linked rings in a finger palm, having gone to your pocket and brought them out, and you can do a Ramsey or whatever. But because they're rings, you pick up those two, and you can almost have them. It makes the throw easy because you just basically stick your thumb on in the rings and then do that, in that below. So it allows you to hold. It makes that move. You can really
Right.
throw just simply because they're rings, because you can hang on to it. No sort of awkward palm or awkward finger palm thing. So it's just,
You know, I notice you're sort of closing the left hand right away, which is what we're used to doing when we do switches, like the Bobo change and stuff. But I'm wondering, would it still look good in this case if you closed your left hand a little slower? Because really the only difference is that they're linked.
Yeah.
So seeing them for another moment or two wouldn't necessarily give that away. I don't know.
There's three of them though.
There's three linked, and you're throwing two. But I mean, even if it's half a second, it might.
Oh, that's right. Never
The idea
mind. I'm
is
sorry.
It's two, becomes three, and then becomes three linked. So there might be another phase in there somewhere that could make that.
Hey, Gareth.
Yep.
I'm thinking that, and you'd have to play with the routine to see how this works using a series of false transfers, but I'm almost of the opinion that you could start with one of those rings already hooked to your finger ring. And so whenever you show it, you're showing it to be one in the hand, and then again, you got to change the phasing a little bit, so that when you do the false transfers, you're retaining the one. But then at the very end, like you said, your climax would be it linking with your finger ring, and yet it's been there all the time. It's just never been pointed out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. But you've got to make sure that the hand remains. I mean, that's not difficult, but the hand can't obviously turn over through the whole thing.
You would have to always have an excuse to have one in the left hand if that hand is actually visible. So yeah. Anyway, just thinking out loud with you.
Really, just going back to Andrew's, maybe there's no reason why it couldn't really be left there for half a second, because to differentiate whether there's two or three.
Yeah, I don't think
just as a retention kind of thing.
Yeah, this is really cool. This whole two in a hand, three in a hand, one in the pocket, whatever it is. There's so much creativity in, like with Frank with the dice. This is really smart. I just recorded for the Real Magic magazine one from Jerry, who does it with bills. So you borrow 2 ones, and you're telling the spectator, okay, I got one in my hand, one in the pocket. How many do I have in my hand? They say 1. No, there's 2. Well, at the end, it ends up being that at the end you say, how many do I have? They say 2, and you say, you're right, but you only show 1. But what it is it's a $2 bill, so it actually is a 2. So there's a lot of creative ways to use this principle. I like, and that's a really
Yeah. Well, that's
Doc Eason does one with nuts and bolts, if you've seen that.
Oh man, that's a really good one too.
Which one is that?
I think
Doc
Doc Eason
Eason
does
does
that.
it with
Yeah,
nuts and bolts.
all screwed up.
Yeah,
that's cool.
that is smart.
Great routine.
Well,
Quick thing on that, real quick, Rudy. You can buy a bag of those, the key rings that you're using, Gareth,
Yeah.
on Amazon. I'm pretty sure it was Amazon. It could have been eBay. It's like 1,000 of them. It's like huge bag, and they're like 3 cents a piece. So if you wanted to use them in a walk-around environment where you just give them away, like you could literally take the 3 that are linked and just leave them on the table, and it costs you a dime.
that's really
Or I
cool.
can make sets up and sell it all for $99 each.
You get some-
What's that?
Again, Joshua J. He'll want to sell them for $99 each.
That's great.
Or you could do the old 699 in the hand and 299 in the pocket routine.
You're funny today, Tommy. You're on.
Here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 unlinked key rings.
How many?
Tommy's definitely not that funny today.
Yeah. You need to hush, Mike. I'm going to show it again, buddy.
No smarting from
Oh,
that
Jesus,
picture,
I shouldn't
Mike.
have opened. Don't do it. Oh, God dang it. I forgot. All right, I've been duly punished.
That's awesome.
All right. Here's the question. Is this before or after? Who knows?
We're both smiling.
Oh, God.
Might be during.
I can't
Right.
Hey, I was
We
there.
did
I
that to
can't-
Steve Friedberg. We texted Steve Friedberg with that. We were from the Pebble Convention.
we wish you were here. And,
Yeah, wish you were here.
Sure.
That was funny.
Is there anything you could do to make the key ring special if you're going to give them away or leave them?
Well, they're linked. I don't know. I got an idea. Epoxy them together so you can't open them. And then when they start trying to unwind them to use them, they go, geez, you can't even open these things.
Little tiny micro solder or something. Yeah.
Right. That's smart. Really quickly, I'd like to go to Mike Breger. I'd like to meet this new person here. This is Jay Dyke. Do you want to introduce yourself to us really quick? I'd like to know who.
My name is Jordan, and this is like the first session I've been to. So,
Welcome.
yeah, thanks.
I'm really glad
Where are you from?
Salem, Oregon.
Hey, so we're
Which Central? All right.
you hit me up or on the forum. So you're just up the road from me.
Yeah, where are you from?
I'm in Forest Grove.
Forest Grove. Okay, so yeah, just
Wrong Salem.
a little
Okay.
bit west of Portland. Then.
Okay, well, we'll have to get together. Maybe me, you, because did Nate invite you to the forum?
I can't remember. Maybe it was. Man, I don't remember. It's been a while.
Okay, well, we're practically neighbors, so we'll have to do one of these sessions in
Definitely.
Well,
Yeah,
To
if
meet you,
y'all get
Jordan.
together, be sure and send us the picture if y'all get together. Okay, Rudy?
I love it, man.
All right. That's it. That's the last time. That's the last time.
Okay, well, Mike, I'm so glad
A lot.
you joined us. How you doing?
I'm terrific. I would love to know more about what you saw last night. You talked a bit about who you saw.
It was just incredible. I'm sure that Garrett's going to do an extensive write-up on this.
Yeah, I'll do a big post. What did we started off, we got there like the place opens at 5. We got there past 5.
It's great. I love it. There was a time I was doing quite a bit of business on the West Coast. So I always, and in fact, I was working in the LA area. It was maybe a half an hour's drive to the castle. So I had an excuse for going out there. And then charging dinners to the company and to the client that I was working for. And that's really real magic. I don't have anything thrilling to show, but I will show something. I've been working on this thing for a while. It's far from ready for prime time, but I'm going to show you I'll show you this very primitive prototype. Solicit opinions, solicit ideas. There's not going to be anything at this point that you probably won't guess. Maybe it'll be a bit surprising. Let me see if I can. I got a bunch of these blank cards on Amazon. You can get these packets. They're sized like playing cards, same size as playing cards, and it's I think it's a very similar type of cardboard that's used. It's made for flashcards. Or if you want to create your own board game, and they come in packets of 50. So here it is wrapped in a packet of 50, and I find them they're very good to, you could take a Sharpie, you can mark them up, you can put some ideas on it, you can play around with it. And what I did.
What's the title on Amazon?
I don't know. It's you know what? I will take a look at a past order and I'll post it online. But it was really inexpensive. I think it was like yeah. You know what? It was like 200 of them. You get 4 of these 50 packs for I don't know $7. It was really inexpensive.
Could you PM me? Get that information.
I have this effect with animals all over the world.
I'm looking for cards like that for a different purpose. So if you could PM me a link or something, I'd appreciate it. This is Stephen.
Okay, Steve.
Post it on the forum.
Stephen, I have to. So here's what I learned about these cards. It doesn't have the same coating on it that we're used to with cards. The good thing is, and the reason I went with these is when I was using index cards or poster board that was cut, you couldn't spread them that easily because of the way, I guess, paper cards without coatings are designed. They just weren't slippery enough.
That's perfect for me because I want actual flashcards.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. This is. I think that was the original purpose of doing this.
Yeah, in any case, you could PM me a link or put it on the board, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. I'll do it right after we're done here. So, I had this effect that I put out a while back, Face Your Fears, where I had 25 of these cards, and each one had like fear of spiders or fear of falling in a hole, all sorts of weird fears. And I used regular blank-faced playing cards for that. But what's good about these is that there's no back. I mean, you can get double backed cards or double blank cards, but they're expensive. I think it's like $10 to get a deck of double blank cards, and yet $10 gets you 200 of these. So from a prototype perspective, it's perfectly good to do it. Here's the other thing I learned. If you take a Sharpie marker and write on these things, I don't know if it's the nature or the fact that there's not a really good coating on here. Or there's something in the ink, but the cards start to warp and they get thick. So here's a pack of 50 cards that are marked, and these are now maybe, you can't see it. These are now maybe an 1/8 of an inch thicker than the 50 that are wrapped without anything that are on it. I don't know that I could take these 50 and stick them in a card box at this point, but maybe I can. In any case, let me show you what I've been playing around with. I took the names of classic rock groups, like the Doors. Here's the Doors, Zombies, and then I took names of performers. Greg Allman, Elvis Presley. Sorry if I'm upside down here. And I created this thing. I call it the Rock Deck. So you can do all sorts of interesting things, and I'll show you how I designed the Rock Deck in a second. But here's one example of something that you can do. So again, there's 50 of them here, and I'm going to add. It's tough to do this over a video, but I would ask a spectator to cut off a bunch of these cards and place them on the table. So I guess we can just go like this, and somebody could say stop. I'll just cut it here. Stop. So somebody, anybody, just yell stop.
Stop.
Get the dog barking again. Okay. All right. So let's say they say stop here, and then at this point they're left with this bunch of cards. You know what? Let me just move the thing of the laptop down a little bit. Maybe this will work a little bit better. There we go. So now you have to say, okay, you've cut this. You cut this packet off of here, and now how many cards do you have on your little packet that you cut? Can you see this? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, so they're counting down with these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And, magic numbers are always single-digit numbers, so take the 18, the 2 digits, and add them together, the 1 and the 8, and you get 9, and now deal out 9 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And on this card, take a look at the name that's on the card, and I don't know if is this upside down or right side up?
Okay, we got it.
Upside down, but I got it.
Okay, so you had all these rock stars that you could and groups that you could have looked at. Let me tell you, let me play for you a song that I was listening to today on my phone. Okay. So this you might think that this is the standard 10 to 20 force, and in fact, at least in this case, it was. But there was T.A. Waters published in Magic magazine, or rather the Bascom Jones Magic, back in the early 70s, a real super variation of the 10 to 20 force. This is like 10 to 20 on steroids. And in fact, you don't have to pick a number from 10 to 20. They could go down, they could cut deep down here, a substantial amount. And they could cut. Now, granted, it's a lot of cards to count to, but again, whatever number they count to, you take the 2 digits and you add it together, and it's going to come up with one of the 4 Beatles. So I have the 4 Beatles are at positions 10, 19, 28, and 36. And those positions are forced using this type of this type of force. And again, what T.A. Waters did is he had 2 playing cards. I don't know, Jack of Diamonds and 2 of Hearts. And he had duplicates of those. So he had one of the 2 in position 10, one of the 2 in position 19, one in position 28, one in position 36. And had somebody did a false shuffle, had somebody go through this, and they were able to pick one of the 4 force cards. And then he had an envelope, and he had a double-backed card, or double-faced card with the king on one side and the 2, whatever those 2 cards I mentioned are, and was able to show this. So it's a pretty cool force. But I'll show you some interesting things about this. Let me. First of all, is there any questions? There shouldn't be any questions. It's pretty standard stuff. So let me show you. So this is, I don't know if you can see this. I was going to post this, but I'm a little hesitant to do it right now because you're still looking at an unfinished painting. So I'll show you how this is organized. Again, the rock groups are in black ink, and the performers are in red. And there's 50 cards. So there's 25 red cards, right? 25 performers and 25 groups. Theoretically, with this deck, you can do an out-of-this-world type of thing, separating the rock stars, set it up like you would set up any type of out-of-this-world that you like to perform, and you could separate the rock stars from the groups. Also, the Beatles, I've got the 4 Beatles, and I also have, as artists, I also have one of the black cards that says the Beatles on it. So there's another trick, and it's really tough to do in this type of a cramped situation. Besides, I'd have to set the deck up. But it was the first trick that was in Peter Duffy's, what's the super strong card magic or whatever, the one that had the muscle man on the cover. So you set it up with, he did this to produce a royal flush. He had one of the 5 cards of the royal flush on the bottom of the deck. He had the other 4 on the top of the deck. And it was a combination of doing a Balducci cut deeper force with picking up, holding a break and picking up a card and putting it down. To produce piles where you can have the 5 cards that produce the royal flush. Here, you can produce the 4 Beatles, and the last card that you turn face up is the little sign that says the Beatles. So you have the names, and you say, ladies and gentlemen, meet the Beatles. You can do, here's another thing. Let's say here's Donovan, and I want to force Donovan. So you put Donovan on top, face up of the face down deck. And on top of that, here's just a plain old blank card. And you can do Henry Christ's, was it the 203rd force, the sort of half of Balducci, where you have the cards in your hand and you ask the spectator, pick up a good portion of the deck, turn it face up. Oh, look, you cut it at U2. That's interesting. Take that and put it back down on top. But instead of going with this one that you see, as you can see, we've got we've got artists, we've got artists, we've got rock groups. Let's go to the first face down one that we come to, right? And this will be Donovan, because this is where the double backer is. So one other thing to note on this is the way I have this organized with the artists. The first artist is Greg Allman, letter A, then Eric Burden, letter B, Petula Clark, letter C, Donovan, D, and it goes down to Frank Zappa, letter Z. So they're in alphabetical order. You could stack this deck. And you can mix, and the same thing with the groups, the Animals, the Beatles, Chicago, the Doors. It's A through Z. You could stack the deck, you could shuffle the deck to mix the two together, as long as the artists stay in order and the groups stay in order. And then you ask somebody to cut the cards at a spot. Are you looking at we want to concentrate on artists, for example. So if you cut to a black card, take the next one, look at the next one, and you can, because just like working with a Stebbins deck or the Stebbins format, what the next card is. So there's all sorts of stuff. And one more feature, Frank Zappa, good old Frank Zappa sits in the middle, and it's a short card. So you can riffle up to get to the short card, and you can go and move bits or pieces of the deck or whatever you want to do with a short card. Use this as a locator. Any case, I've been playing around with this a lot. I've showed it to a few magicians that I know and trust, and a lot of them are saying, keep trying to add features to this thing. Just take the basic idea, come up with a couple of tricks, and work on that, play with that, try to refine that. I don't know. I'm throwing it out there to you guys.
I like the one where you produce all the Beatles. That's very clever.
Well, you know something? You can do any 4-ace trick. Any 4-ace trick you can think of. I mean, even the simplest ones that you would see in...
I can do almost any 4-ace trick now, but I like this trick.
Well, okay, there you go. I will push it through the internet.
Hey, Mike, I got a question for you.
Yes,
Tommy
sir.
posted a link on the cards, and it says dry erase. You seem to be using a permanent marker. Do you have a problem with the ink coming off?
No. I tried the dry erase cards, and they're not really good for dry erasing. They leave residue.
The cards you are not dry erase, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Go back to work.
So there are. Oh yeah, I see that thing right there. Stephen, you can get the dry erase, and you can erase them, but it's not simply wiping it off with a cloth. You got to go back with an eraser, because it leaves residue. And I try it because I thought it'd be great. Certainly, if you're prototyping these things.
The link that I've got up there, they are advertised as dry erase, because you obviously can use the dry erase because it has a glossy finish, but you can also use a Sharpie, which is what he's doing. So, but it's the same card, because I have a set of them myself that I use for flashcards with permanent Sharpie markers.
Okay, so if you use permanent Sharpie markers, it doesn't come off, right, Tommy?
That's correct.
That's correct. I don't know what I would do without your ability to research. Thanks a lot.
But here's the other thing I learned. If you're using this, use a regular Sharpie to write on it, because I use the ones with the thicker nibs. And again, I don't know whether it's just the ink that leaches into the paper, but it makes the cards thicker. One other thing that I learned about these cards is that you can't Farrow them. You can try, but you end up with more bent cards than you want to deal with. A standard riffle shuffle also has a tendency to warp the cards. So the cards, they're not going to last forever. If you do plain old overhand shuffles, that's fine. I don't think that there's going to be any problem. But the other thing is, and the other thing that I learned is that even with just 50 cards, this ends up being a little bit thicker than a standard deck of cards, and they're not as slippery, although they're pretty darn good. And it takes a little bit of getting used to. If you wanted to do a jog shuffle, for example, it takes you got to almost have to relearn it. Because I was dropping cards left and right when I was trying to do a jog shuffle with this thing, and they're not very friendly for doing a riffle shuffle. So you got to play around with these a little bit.
This is Gareth asking me something really quick.
Do you remember a couple of months ago there was someone posting on the forum about an effect called COAT, C-O-A-T?
Yes, it was Anthony.
It was Anthony.
And that's what I did. I took those same cards, and that was what I used to make up with a Sharpie the COAT cards so that you could do that. And that's how I happened to find them there, Steve.
Tommy, can you use a regular pen on those? Do you know?
I don't think it would be like a ballpoint. You can, but I think you'd have to use multiple strokes in order to get it to, like you would a playing card. It has a similar finish as a playing card. It is a little bit thicker, and it's not quite as high gloss. It's more of a satin finish.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I just used a ballpoint on this thing. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Does it smear? Yeah, it doesn't.
Is it clear?
Is it clear? There we go.
Can you read it okay?
I don't know. Can you read it?
Okay.
I think a fine Sharpie would be better if you wanted.
Yeah. Now again.
Thanks, guys. Sorry to bother you.
There's no reason why you couldn't take a regular blank face playing cards and write on them, except these, when you do tricks, when you do like tricks using these types of cards, it doesn't seem like it's a card trick. And let's face it, it's a card trick. But these don't necessarily look like playing cards. Blank face cards look like playing cards, and they've got my old Fox Lake, believe it or not, blank face playing cards.
Rudy, can you put me up on the screen? You can probably see the name of those, so you can do your Amazon search.
Yeah.
They're called Apostrophe Game Dry Erase.
Yeah, that's what it is, exactly. Apostrophe Games. You know what?
Groups of 48 or groups of 144, depending on your.
Yeah. I don't know that the dry erase ones are chemically different than the plain ones, but I bought the dry erase to see if they dry erase, and the dry erase doesn't really work that well. You got to work at it to get it. You can erase it, but you got to work at it, and that's just too much work for me.
Gareth had a comment. Did you want to say?
Oh yeah, only just little. So you can easily riffle shuffle those, obviously.
But he says he hands them up though.
They're a little thicker than a regular playing card.
You could use any of the.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Gareth? I just riffle shuffled. I just did an in the hands riffle shuffle. Again, you can an overhand shuffle. But as we're hearing, they're little tiny, and it's a hair's breadth thicker. But they're made even thicker because of the ink that's on it. But just doing a jog shuffle, it takes a while. The best thing about it is that when you do a jog shuffle, an overhand shuffle, it's a sloppy looking shuffle. And to me, doing sloppy, Roberto Giobbi would slap me across the face because it's not elegant. But a sloppy looking overhand shuffle, if you're going to do a jog, is perfect because you can have that card, that out jog card. Nobody knows about it.
He thinks you have to put 10 from other night. So what does he do?
And can you riffle them? You can riffle them. Again, I tried farrowing them, and all I did was bend the cards. The riffle cards, they're not going to be as long lasting as regular cards. So just be prepared that these things bend. You take a bicycle card and you put a little bend in it, and it typically bends back. Here, as you can see, it holds the it's holding that bend longer. I guess that would make for a really good breather. But there's no reason why you can't do a lot of typical card effects using these cards, and it doesn't look like a card effect. It looks like a mentalism effect, or it looks like a type of a magic trick. Or if you're doing a thing with the rock groups, you can have the reveal as a song on your iPhone. I just think that there's so many things that you can do with this thing. So my next, once I'm comfortable with the idea and whether I think using a stack like this is even worthwhile, I would considering talking to a company that professionally makes these things, and seeing what it would cost to put put this out as a release. But I don't think I'm there yet. In any case, I'd love suggestions. I'd love thoughts. I'd love ideas. Maybe as a group, we can get together and come up with a little booklet of 15 tricks that we can do with this rock deck.
That sounds fun. So you must be a fan of the Beatles then? Chris W. noticed you have a Beatles poster behind you.
Yeah, there you go. It's Hard Day's Night. We have the Help poster. Ironically, it's in the bedroom, but
that's funny.
They make a little blue pill for that, by the way, if you're interested.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Tommy, can you post? I can't find those apostrophe cards. Can you send me a link via private chat?
If you're on the chat area of this Zoom meeting, I posted it there just a moment ago.
I saw it, but it doesn't link to the screenshot that you're showing.
Hey, Stephen, I'll send it to you. Stephen, I'll send you a DM.
I got it. I was wrong.
But it's just showing.
I was wrong. It's the same cards. It's just a different picture.
I've just zoomed to a different photograph on it. Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, hey, why don't we have about half an hour, and then we'll have to. I got to get Gareth back to his hotel. Maybe, anybody in particular want to show anything? I don't know, Mike. I know you showed us some work on the false cut, but did you actually have anything you wanted to show us, demonstrate for us?
Oh, sure. I've got something that's going to be in the column. Hey, I was going to ask about. I wonder if the cards that Mike Breger just showed would hold inkjet printer ink, because you can make like a little pattern where those cards will fit right into a slot, and you could probably lay out 6 of them on one page. So you have like one flat piece of paper, and then you have like some cardstock cut out, and those things like set right down in the slots in the cardstock. And you run it through a jet printer. So it might be interesting to see. So
the good news, Mike, is yes. And unlike playing blank playing cards through and getting, it looks like it's stuck in a fishbowl. If you try and print, inkjet on regular playing cards, it gets, full color and it looks pretty darn good. That's the good news. The bad news is that the rollers in these printers turn this thing into it looks like a crayon. It comes out rolled, and then you have to flatten it with a book. You can do that, but it's a lot of effort. Again, for me at this point, this was just a prototype, and I just wanted to see what this would look like, if it would work, how it would handle. But cool. maybe inkjet is the way to go. I don't know.
Well, there's a company that you can have custom decks made from, and I think if you had a one deck, it might be $10 or $12 just as a prototype. I've got the address if you're interested, Mike. If you wanted to,
absolutely
send them the artwork. They're good quality cards. I'm working on cards for Plastic Lady that I'm going to re-release, and they've got miniature cards. In fact, they're right over here. So here's whoops, that's not one of them. So they have like miniature cards. Like I don't know if I'm on the screen here or not. It can do.
Let me get you on there.
Let's see here.
Where are you?
So I don't know if you can see these or not, but there's a Queen of Hearts. Can you guys? There it is. Okay.
Yep.
So there's a Queen of Hearts printed and a 10 of spades. Now the spades don't quite match Bicycle. They're a little smaller. The cards are about exactly the same size, and they also have miniature cards. And then I just came up with this back design as a it's not copyrighted or anything. So I had some cards made.
Wait. What do you mean you just came up with it? You drew it?
No. There was some guys online that said these are, you know, public domain back patterns.
All right, because if you can draw that good and you're that multi-talented, that would really piss me off.
Yeah, well, he's a spirograph. He's a living spirograph.
Oh my gosh. Science, magic, drawing, that's just too talented.
Oh man. Let's just do a card trick here. All right, well unfortunately this is like a pick a card trick, so I'm just gonna go through and imagine that somebody said stop on this card. So Stephen, can you remember this card here?
I can.
Okay, and then Rudy, why don't you remember, you said stop over here, so we'll just, can you see it? Okay. So these are the two selections. I guess I'd have to lose them in the deck. So Rudy's goes in first, and then of course Stephen's will be lost in the deck, as it were. Now I know something about those cards. I know that they were not jacks. So I've got all 4 jacks right here. Let's see, Stephen. We'll find your card first. Do you want me to use the black jacks or the red jacks?
Red.
Red jacks it will be, my friend. All right. We're going to take the 2 red jacks, and I'm going to push them through the deck, right? You can see them going in. Here we go. In one side, out the other side. And during that little journey, they picked up a card. I wonder if that card looks familiar to you. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
That the 2 of hearts is your card. All right. Well, let's put them on a return journey. This time they will drop that card off. So I'm going to place the jacks back inside the deck, back through the deck, out the other side, and wait a minute. Oh, they picked up a different card. Is that, Rudy, is that your card?
Yep, that's it.
And they and actually they did drop off that 2 over here. So mission accomplished.
Really good, Mike.
Yeah, that's a Tom Frame trick that's going to be in the card corner in August. So I think it's a pretty cool trick. If you guys, somebody mentioned the Cameron Francis trick that was on, that was in the Genie, I think, last month. There was somebody pointed it out in the forum, and it really is a cool trick. And I realized, you know, if you did this trick with the 2 red jacks and had a 3rd selection, you could go right into the Cameron Francis trick. So what you'd have then is that the 2 selections that were on top, the 3rd selection would be 3rd from the top. So this was Stephen's card, which went on first. This is Rudy's card, which went on second. And then the 3rd card for the Cameron Francis trick would be the 9 of spades, and it would have to be 3rd from the top. So first I'll explain Tom Frame's trick. So now you're going to get a break under the top card, put the jacks down, do the standard sandwich thing, right? So I picked up the 3rd card, got 3 cards, the sandwich is already made. But the interesting thing is that's the 2nd card, not the 1st card. So this is kind of a cool idea. So you outjog the triple as a double, reach around with your right hand and grab it at the short edge, open up the deck with your left pinky and insert these in the center. Now you can momentarily take the deck here and rotate it into your left hand. It seems it's a nice way to get here because it can be awkward to get into this position. That little sequence gets you right here. Now you just push these through. Nobody knows what happened yet. Regrip the deck with your 1st and 4th finger like this to kind of guide these 3 out. Now get a break under that top card because you're going to get to the 2nd card. So they don't know that that's actually the 2nd card. They just see that there's a card between the jacks. So I can bring this over the deck as I'm getting the break under that top card. So I can just say, so there's this card. Now I've kind of surreptitiously gotten a break under the actual selection that belongs to the 1st guy. Pull this out onto the deck and table these. Now turn over the double, and you have the 1st guy's card. So that they thought it was the 1st guy's card because you said that's what you were going to find. Now you can use it. He uses a downs change like this to unload and switch the cards, which is a nice change. So if you know the downs change, you basically side jog the double, and which was it? I guess it was the other way. It was this way. You side jog the double, put your thumb on it, and as you're turning your hand over, you're pulling this back and putting your fingers on top of that card and extracting it. So it's a nice change. Although sometimes it flashes. So a safer way to do it is a necktie 2nd deal. You just raise this up and just take that 2nd card and deal it down. So you don't need any great 2nd deal technique on that one. You're just pushing this back and taking the 2nd card. But because you've raised the deck up, they can't see anything. So now you can just shuffle this and drop the reversed card into the center. And now everything is set for the big ending. You just put these back into the deck, same routine, push them through, out the other side, pull them out. It looks like you failed to unload this card back into the deck, and then you reveal that, oh no, that's the second guy's card. We did unload that other card back into the deck. I thought that was kind of a nice little sandwich thing with a little bit of a surprise in it.
I like that.
And if you know the Cameron Francis trick, what you do is that third card that we talked about. I don't remember if I changed it out, but let's say the third card selected was the King of Spades. So you have two cards selected. Then I'm thinking, after the second card has been controlled, you just go, oh, let's get a third card. So this guy takes a card, and that lets you get the break for a bluff pass or a tilt or something like that. So you get that third card third from the top. So these two got taken out during the Tom Frame phase. Now the Cameron Francis trick is really cool. If you peek this card, you can know that it's black. And now if you orient the four jacks so that the top jack is a black jack, you go into the Cameron Francis trick, you just pick up the extra card, so you now have that three of spades here. And this was described in Genie. You just peel the jacks one by one, put the double at the face. Now do an Elmsley count. Now you're going to push these through your fist and say, I'm going to cause the jacks that match the color of your card to turn face up. Now you do an Elmsley count, and they see the two black jacks. The cool thing here is all the jacks are face up at that point. So you get way, way ahead by just turning over the block and saying, here's the black jacks. They'll find your card. They told me it was black. Your card is black. Now the card is actually on the bottom of this packet, but these are the black jacks. So you get this really cool ending. This is totally Cameron Francis's thing that I think John Bannon had in his column. So you just pretend that it's going to appear. Wait, it didn't appear. Wait a minute, these aren't the black jacks. These are the black jacks. And this is a nice way to make it seem that that card was between the black jacks. Peel this, flip it over, pull the bottom card out, and then turn this one over. And then you've got that third card. So I think those two tricks go really nicely together. Tom Frame gets you two cards. And the fact that that third card ends up right next to the reversed card. So at the end, with the Tom Frame part, when you get to the center and you say, oh, there's that card did end up there, this is going to be the third selection. So you just leave it on top, pick up the other two jacks. You have to peek this card, of course, to get the red jack in position, and then you just do Cameron Francis as written up in Genie. And the two tricks, I don't have anything to do with either of those tricks, but they're cool ones, and I thought I'd show those, because the Tom Frame one will be in my column in August.
That's great. Now,
There they are.
the Cameron Francis thing, you said the black jack is on the top. Is it black, black, or like black, red alternating? Black, red, black, red? Or
For the Cameron Francis phase? Yeah, for Cameron, you want the selection to be the top card. So if you're going to use these two together, you do the Tom Frame one, and at the end of the Tom Frame one, the second card from the top will be reversed due to the downs change or the second deal. And the third selection, which was third from the top before you started the sandwich thing, will be right here. So you take that one out, come back. This would be the third selection. Now, if you know that it's black, then you want the face jack to be black. They're alternating color, and the face jack, the jack at the top of the face-up pile, has to match that color if you want to use the color. You don't even have to use the color thing. I just thought it kind of made sense out of why did these jacks turn over? Well, the jacks that match the color of your card are going to turn over. So when you square up and get that card here, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. Elmsley is really easy to remember. Elmsley count, push them through the fist. Say that the jacks of the same color will have turned over. There they are. Leave them on top. Flip over the block of 4. Take the top two, supposedly the black jacks. Nothing appears between them. Oh, they're the red jacks. There's a black jack. There's the other black jack. There's the card.
I like it.
I think it's a really good trick.
Hey, Mike?
Yeah.
On the first part of that, when you had the double card instead of doing the second, this move,
yeah,
you have a break and stick your right index finger in and then just rotate both hands right toward you.
Sure.
That'll give you a way to pull that second card out.
Yeah, it's a second deal done a different way. I like it. It looks very deceptive.
Can you demonstrate that again?
Taking it. Yep, I think you showed that in your lecture.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
It's a good move.
I like
Definitely.
Frank, can you show that one more time and slowly?
Sure. You have your double card and you're holding the break. This right index finger goes in and your left thumb's going to press down on the top card and both hands are just going to rotate.
Mm-hmm. That's
and as they do, the index finger is going to
just drag the card out. Yeah.
Second card.
Thanks. That's great.
Mike,
yeah.
It's Wayne. Just a question: is that downstream? Is that really the same as the Harry Lorraine's illogical double lift? It looks very similar.
No, I don't think the illogical double lift is more like the KM move. I think maybe Rudy can help us out here.
Here's the illogical double lift.
Hold on, let me put it on.
Mike.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Johnny. Or Frank.
The illogical double lift is this.
Yeah, which is really like a KM move to a large extent. KM move a lot of times was just done with a double card. Like maybe this card has an odd color back, so you have a double, so that's red, and now you just kind of let these cards kiss and come away. But if you do it with back-to-back cards, then you get what Frank did there. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Wow, Mike, thanks for showing us that. Those are great. Yeah. We have 15 minutes. I wanted David Jelinek wanted to show us something. I'm gonna put the spotlight over to you.
Can I throw out a thought on the blank cards very briefly?
Yes.
So Corinda in 13 Steps to Mentalism on page 225, he has a mnemonic system with symbols that you can use for mind reading with a mnemonic system to associate them with numbers. So you can also make a stacked memorized pack by drawing something like that if you're looking for other fun things to try with blank cards.
And Andrew, I'll take it one step further. Our very own Paul Hallis has a book out, Mentalism with Cards, and he's got a whole chapter on pictorial decks, this type of thing. Max Maven in his last Penguin lecture did a thing where he had symbols and had mnemonics that were able to help you remember what was at what point. So it's interesting.
What's the other guy's name?
Which one? Max Maven?
No,
Paul Hallis. For Paul Hallis.
Paul Hallis, thank you.
Yeah, Mentalism with Cards. It's a little booklet that he has out. Geez, I got it years ago, but I'm sure it's available wherever you find magic books.
David.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful. Let me put David here, and you are on, David.
Hey. So I know we're tight for time. There were a couple things I wanted to show you, quickies, and then a couple things I had questions about. I'll see what we have time for. I'll do the short ones first. So I got my hands on a DVD set called Joshua Jay's Talk About Tricks, which I really recommend it. It's kind of a best of from his magic columns. The first thing on there is an oil and water routine, which I might actually do someday. It was actually fun to watch.
I'm with you, brother.
I really love that one. Yeah. Is it Rene Levon? Is he the guy who was paralyzed in one arm?
Yeah, he
doesn't have one arm.
Yeah, I don't have one. Okay. When I saw him do that, I thought, okay, that's actually pretty cool. But for two-armed people, it's harder to make it impressive. But Joshua Jay pulls it off. There is one thing in there about the turnover pass. So you guys might remember I used to post endlessly about this because I could never get my turnover pass to look right. So the hint he had is when you grab the deck, you move this hand all the way forward and you straddle that corner with these two fingers. And when you do that, his claim is that you don't have as many flash points. Is that what we call them? There aren't as many places where it flashes. So I'm still not thrilled with it. This does seem like a big improvement, though. You grab it like this, and when you do the turnover, it's harder to see what's going on.
I've got to say that looks kind of unnatural to me.
Looks good to me.
Yeah, so that is a concern that they brought up. It does look unnatural. You have to make sure that you're not holding it that weird way for very long. It has to be very quick thing. You're
It
regripping the
only
deck.
takes a
turn it over.
second for a spectator to see something unnatural, and then their attention is drawn to the deck. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Do you do this pass, Steve? I mean, maybe you have a better way to do it.
A turnover pass?
Yeah.
Does Steven have a better way?
That's
to do
right.
it?
A silly question.
Go for it, Stephen.
I see. That's a trick question because if I say yes, I look like an egomaniac. But I have one that I prefer.
Okay.
It's called, what is it, Andrew? The rotation pass, I think.
Yeah.
And it's on Andrew's DVD, and it ends up the same effect. It's as easy to do as a turnover, but it uses shoot. Now I have to get a deck of cards.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's good, David. Glad you asked. And by the way, Frank Zach because my turnover pass was some tips that I think were fantastic. So Frank
How's
Zach.
it coming along now, Rudy?
All right. Let me see if I can make my hands work today. All right. The kind of turnover pass I do is different. I don't know how good this has looked. I haven't practiced, but it looks like that.
Oh, that's good. That's really
Okay, you win.
That's called a rotation pass. Andrew sells a DVD on it. So I'm doing a pass here. I'll put the cards face to face. So when I do the pass, oh, that was good. Anyway, that's what it looks like. Hang on a second. Right there.
Hey, the plumber's here.
Great.
All right, so
I'm ready to swipe a credit card right now for some reason.
in my turnover pass, you could actually start with the deck like this. Right, I'm not going to bother straightening them out, but I'll just show you that the whole thing is it conserves movement, and you don't even have to. You're not even really turning the deck over. That's what it looks like in slow motion.
That looks great.
How many years of my life will it take to learn this?
Not very long at all if you're already familiar with the turnover pass in general.
Okay, which DVD is this?
It's called Hacking the Past. You can find it on practicenotincluded.com.
So I seem to remember that includes the turnover and your version of the classic pass, the mongrel pass.
That's correct.
Okay.
But it's not that hard to do once you understand the principles. It uses the same thing. What's happening is as soon as I basically rotate and flip, right, and I leave that packet vertical, and I drop this packet down, and as I do so, my hands grab this, pull it out so it squares, and just rotates it. So it looks like that.
What is it? What is the angle to your left? Does it flash from the left side?
A little bit, but from the right, not so much. You guys caught me in my pajamas. From the right, it looks like this. From the left, you have a little bit of a flash, but not much.
Wow, that's really good.
Rudy, are you recording this session?
This is being recorded, yes.
Great.
I'll send you all the link too, yes. So
Can I ask you to take down the pictures of Mike and me in bed before you load that to the forum?
I can definitely edit that if you really want me to. I can blur it out.
It's already gone viral.
That was my twin brother, by the way. That was not me.
That's what I'm afraid of. It was actually a blow up Mike Powers that I had in bed with me. Funny thing was, I bit him on the neck and he farted and flew out the window. So it's just crazy. Anyway, I got to go to a funeral. Really, I know that probably sounds like a joke. I enjoyed the session, guys. Y'all are great. Look forward to watching the rest of it on the recording.
Tommy, it was really good to see. I know you're busy, but I miss seeing you around, so it's good to see your face.
Yeah, my real job is getting in the way of my hobby here real bad. So anyway, thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
Good to see you, Tommy. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tommy.
David, I'm sorry I cut in on your time.
Oh, that's fine.
Can't wait to room with you again, bro.
No, that's great. I'm glad you said something, Steve. I had a couple other things I wanted to mention. Let me throw a simple question out here. Steve will laugh at this. If I need to get a break under, I guess over, let's say 2 cards on the bottom, everyone makes this look like a simple move. I can't do it. I can get one card. I can buckle one card, so we can do it like this, and then insert my pinky. So from the top, I'm just buckling, and I've got it. Getting 2 cards, I've seen Harry Lorraine do this on video, and he makes it look like, you just count to 2 and it's done. I cannot do this in any reliable way. I was wondering if there's some trick that I'm missing.
Buckling ought to buckle 2 or 3 or 4 cards. They ought to just kind of show right at the corner, I think, don't they? I mean, like if you just do what you did, Dave, just go like that. Look, there's 2 right there. It's just the same action, only a little bit more pressure. Stephen, I'm sure, can address this too. But
why is it always me?
Well, because you're a good scapegoat, man. I've got to live down that freaking picture. So anyway, there's 2, there's 3. You just add more pressure to the outer right corner.
And all the pressure is coming from your left first finger?
Yep. My thumb's pretty much on top, and I got a big hand. I don't know if that thumb needs to be, mine just ends up way over at that corner. So, but I'm just, it just seems automatic. If you push inward, there's 4. Now, but you can see them, so that then you can choose where you want to grab the break at. So
I'd imagine that
you can just look down
up.
and see all the cards and choose how many you want to hold on to.
Right,
I can offer 2 ways to cheat at that.
All right, let's go to Andrew. You're spotlighted. Go for it.
So Paul Cummins, when he needs a break near the bottom of the deck, he structures his trick, comes up with some pattern line that gives him an excuse to spread the cards. Now, you could have taken any of these.
Yeah.
Boom, there's your break.
Yeah.
So in the case where I was using it, I actually had a problem with a different color
and
back.
Okay, and the other cheat, a method that I've used, because I've never been able to make that double buckle feel at all right. I've also got some nerve issues in my left pinky, but so I break it down into like 3 separate actions. As I'm talking and gesturing with my right hand, I do my pull down to get a break under 1 card. Then I transfer the pack to my right hand, and I do a little side steal of the 2nd card as I switch hands, gesture with my left hand while I'm blathering a little bit. Now I can come back and pull down on the jogged card. I've got my break. So, I mean, it takes a while, but each individual action, right? So you can, I'll pretend I've got some cards here, right? So I've got here the King of Hearts and the 4 of Spades, and if I'm trying to find another card like let's say the 10 of Hearts or the King of Diamond, right? That kind of thing.
You could riffle off the. I'm sorry, Andrew. I thought you were done.
I am done. That's it. Go ahead.
You can put the deck in a biddle grip and riffle off 2 cards too.
That's true.
Yeah, that's
right. So if you had for just a second, if you're right here, I got a break below 2 cards now.
That's great.
Yeah, but Stephen, that's exactly what you were saying. They're going to notice something. To me, when I see that, I go, "Guy's getting a break."
That's right, but you know what a break is. Ha!
Yeah, but Stephen, why did you just pull up at the inner part of, you're drawing attention to
I'm
the
shocked
deck.
to hear this from Steve.
Right?
Mike, I'll tell you, in defense of myself, I've never had a problem doing that and getting someone to look away from the deck. But you're right. It's not the most natural thing to do. But then again, buckling the cards like that also, to me, looks like you're buckling cards. So I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but there's no way I'm going to defend that method. I just thought it might be something worth trying.
I'll give one suggestion to Dave. Can I do that real quick?
Yes, let me put you on really quickly, and Johnny, you're on.
I don't have any trouble. I use the way Mike basically does it and the way Steve does it. When I do it with the way Steve is talking about, I find if you hold the deck up while you're talking, you get a little bit more cover than doing it like this. So I just angle up like this a little bit. My hand's covering the card. But with the buckle, all I would suggest is, it helped me a lot, is the finger pulls like right at a diagonal. Don't think of pulling the finger this way, right at a diagonal. and it works like a charm every time. But just a little bit of practice, you know.
Hey, I just want to say that I'm not defending that method. It's just something the way I would do it. But
Another way to help camouflage the thumb count is to do a full deck
if
riffle.
it doesn't look natural for somebody, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but then again, that also calls attention to the deck. So
yeah,
I don't know. I just thought I'd throw it in there.
Ben Earl.
Yeah, this is Gareth.
Ben Earl, and this is again, this takes a lot of practice, but Ben Earl will simply has the pack a little beveled, and just with touch can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and just gets it. Now that takes a lot of time and practice, but with a little bevel, it's touchy, but it's just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's on his
past midnight.
That's on his one-handed.
Nothing here.
You know,
Too.
if it wasn't for the different colored backs, I would vote for spreading the cards as well.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But there's no
What's wrong with that?
from that position with that bevel there, but from the front 1, 2, 3, 4, I've got my break.
That's good.
Mhm.
And then you can go into your bottom palm and then pull out.
Right. But if you're trying to hide the color of the back, you know, the spreading, because I do that sometimes too, it won't work. But I think any of these are really probably whatever.
Well, it's like that. It's like that thing last night. Howard was telling us about how Vernon didn't like the Kelly replacement. So he went away and came back the next night and had this
fancy
this fantastic way of doing it in this position, and that's all you see when it does exactly the same bottom replacement. But then he said, I never use it because there's 30 other ways I know 30 other ways it's much easier.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anyone actually do that Vernon bottom placement?
Not really.
I never managed to make that look good. I don't know.
Now the one where the ring finger comes in and then he pulls down with the little finger, and then that's
the ring finger. Yeah, the ring finger like side jogs the inner corner, and the little finger pushes down.
Right.
Yeah, it's in the Inner Secrets books.
Right.
It's it's something like that.
Yes, exactly.
And
Howard was telling the story just as an example of Vernon just flexing his magic muscle. Over 2 nights at the castle, and he said, "I'd never use it because there's 30 other easier ways to do it."
If you want to control the card to the bottom, right? But yeah, that's great. Well, man, I would love to go longer, but Gareth, we spent the night together here, and he.
You have any pictures?
Thing now.
But I'll tell you what, this was a great session, guys. I mean, each one of you, I really appreciate you taking time to hang out here. I'll post this. It's recorded. It'll be posted in about like an hour or so. So I'll send each of you fellas the link, and we'll tell you all about the trip. Tonight we'll have, I'm sure, some more wonderful magical surprises, and we'll let you guys know about that.
Great.
Hey, Mike, check. I sent you a private message, Mike.
Which Mike?
Mike Powers.
Okay.
Look at the chat.
Right.
What, do you want a copy of that picture?
Yes.
Rudy and Gareth have a chance now to join the club here. I mean, come on, guys.
You just might have to do that. We will. We'll do that. It'll be funny. All right. Well, fellas, thank you so much for taking time. I really want to be so much more. I think I don't do this consistently enough, and I'd like to do that. I've been so bloody busy. But thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. I'll look forward to seeing you guys soon. Okay.
Rudy.
Thanks, Rudy.
Bye, everybody.
Rudy, could I just say one thing before you go?
Oh yeah. Yes. Is that Steve Christian?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
He's gonna come up the stairs.
I was wondering if I could spend the night with you and Garrett.
Yeah, we're gonna try it instead of having the thing that I was asking for some double bed.
Like the Three Stooges, get that picture.
Hey, is it really?
What did we order?
Yeah.
Hey, so look at it. Here's Steve Christian.
You can get some video feedback.
There you go.
I'll have to turn my.
You on that? Hold on here.
Grayson City.
Here's Steve. So now we
Hey,
find.
Steve.
Look at say hi to the fellows.
Hey, everybody. Johnny. Hey, it was all great stuff. I watched a lot of it on the train. Terrific ideas. Wow, you guys are so generous. And look how good Stephen Ewell looks.
You look
You
great,
guys.
Stephen
You do,
Ewell.
Steve.
I gotta say, Christian, you look way different.
Yeah.
The lift's broke. The elevator's broken here. So.
How are the travels, buddy?
Great, still underway.
Yeah.
But taking a break right now, just a few opportunities right here in town, and I'm moving to a bigger, I have kind of a studio workshop, and we pack 10 pounds of crap into a 5-pound bag. So
Is this how you travel? Is this standard practice? You just show up at people's hotel rooms?
I have stayed, and this is only Hotel Tonight sent me a notice that I've stayed in over 50 hotels so far. That was before June. So what a dump.
Yeah. Man, I'm on a budget. So anyway, been out there in the freaking alleyway.
I've done that too.
All right, guys.
Good to see you, pal.
Indeed. All right, fellas. Well, I'm going to sign off. The video will be posted soon. You guys are awesome, okay? I appreciate y'all.
All right. Nice seeing all you guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.